Today we dive into 3 true stories about places we are told not to go or places that hold a dangerous secret despite looking safe. These are chilling tales of people who broke the rules or trusted the illusion and paid the ultimate price. Part 1. The Train Trestle. Rose and Elizabeth. It was just before midnight on August 20th, 2012. 19-year-old college students, Rose and Elizabeth Nass, were celebrating their final night together on Main Street in Ellicott City, Maryland, before heading back to separate states for school. To mark the occasion, the best friends grabbed a few drinks and headed towards their longtime favorite hangout, the train trestle that ran high above Main Street. The trestle was well known, not a secret daredevil spot, but a place frequently visited by local kids, including the girls. The charm was the view and the sense of secure isolation. Crucially, the ledge where everyone sat was situated safely several feet away from the active train tracks. It was understood that a train could pass by without ever threatening those sitting on the edge. Rose and Elizabeth climbed up and settled onto the ledge, their legs dangling freely over the street below. They cracked open their beers and began the nostalgic conversation about the future. They spoke of classes, the coming independence, and most importantly, how deeply they would miss each other once college life began again in full. Rose pulled out her phone. She captured a quick, spontaneous photo of their 2 sets of feet hovering over the street. Below the iconic dangling feet shot, she quickly uploaded the image to Twitter, capturing what would become the final, blissful moment of their lives. The instant Rose hit post, they heard it, a loud, metallic screeching sound erupting right behind them, signaling the rapid approach of a massive train. They instinctively turned to look, but before their minds could register what they were seeing, something massive smashed into them, and everything went instantly black. The screech was indeed the passing train, but the train itself did not hit them, as the tracks were far enough away. The horror was rooted in a tragic, unrelated mechanical failure. As the train roared past, it suffered a partial derailment. Several of the cars did not leave the tracks entirely, but they violently toppled over onto their sides. These cars were open containers carrying thousands of pounds of coal. As the cars fell, the enormous payload erupted, turning the cargo into a devastating projectile. The massive amount of coal smashed into Rose and Elizabeth, instantly burying them completely. It was not snow, but a deadly avalanche of heavy, unforgiving coal. First responders quickly pulled the 2 girls out from the debris, but it was too late. Rose and Elizabeth were the only 2 fatalities in the entire derailment, killed by a torrent of cargo that should never have reached them. Part 2. The Forbidden Fence, Jesus Maness. It was 6 p.m. on October 27th, 2014. 17-year-old Jesus Maness and his friends were locked in an intense basketball game in Kinloch Park, Miami. A wild 3-point airball sailed out of bounds and over the chain-link fence. A collective groan went up. That fence marked a boundary. Anything lost over it was usually abandoned, a known unspoken rule. But a friend dared Jesus, "Go hop the fence and get the ball." The peer pressure began to mount, turning the chore into a test of courage. Jesus hesitated. His parents had been crystal clear since he was a child. Never, ever climb that fence. He knew the rule was absolute, but the eyes of his peers were on him. Not wanting to appear weak or scared, Jesus pushed the ominous warnings aside and rationalized his decision with the most famous last words. "What's the worst that could happen?" He began his climb. The fence was 7 feet tall, topped with sharp barbed wire. He carefully navigated the wire, successfully tumbled to the other side, and stood up, triumphant. His friends cheered. Jesus smiled, feeling a rush of confidence. He retrieved the ball and tossed it back over the fence. He had conquered the forbidden. As he prepared to climb back, he looked around. A few feet away, he spotted another, older basketball, But this one lay between the first fence and a second, identical fence. Jesus had conquered the first fence. He felt invincible. He thought, if he got the second ball too, they would have a backup. He ignored the profound danger represented by the double barrier. Without telling his friends, Jesus walked to the second, 7-foot fence topped with barbed wire, and began his ascent. He carefully crossed the top. He dropped down to the other side, clearing the second fence with ease. But the instant his feet touched the ground in that small, sealed-off area, the horror began. Back on the court, Jesus' friends saw the scene and erupted into total panic. They screamed, ran, and frantically called 911, pointing in helpless terror at the fenced zone. First responders arrived and instantly recognized the area. The fences were there for a deadly reason. The inner zone was a massive electrical power grid. Signs were everywhere, clearly warning of lethal voltage. Jesus had not just crossed a boundary, he had landed directly on a live electrical wire. The second he made contact, 500,000 volts of electricity coursed through his body. This was far more energy than the average lightning strike. 300,000 volts. The equivalent of 2 lightning bolts struck Jesus not once but repeatedly. Jesus died almost instantaneously upon contact. Part 3. The Plastic Cave, Karl Keefe. On the afternoon of April 22, 2023, 49-year-old Karl Keefe, a devoted father of 3, was at a birthday party for one of his children's friends. Karl, a keen adventurer, was exploring a cave system in Cumbria, England. Karl was unafraid. He knew this was the safest cave system he had ever encountered. In fact, it was a system specifically designed and built for children's play, made of plastic with tunnels adults were explicitly told they could crawl through. Crawling on his hands and knees, Karl reached a T-junction and chose to go right. Soon the tunnel felt subtly tighter, though he ignored the minor discomfort. He reached a dead end. To turn around, Karl attempted a full U-turn, getting his head and upper body folded around, but his size betrayed him. He could not complete the turn. His lower half was hopelessly wedged. Karl tried to pull back, to reset to his original position facing the dead end, but he realized he was stuck in that direction too. He was rigidly stuck in a U-shape, unable to move an inch forward or backward. The initial calm vanished. Karl's breathing constricted, his heart rate spiked, and he was consumed by overwhelming, suffocating claustrophobia. The walls of the innocuous plastic tunnel felt like they were actively crushing him. He began to scream for help. Staff rushed in and saw Karl totally wedged. They tried to pull him out but couldn't move him. Despite this being a safe play area, a true emergency was underway. The fire department was called. The first responders were shocked. They could not free him quickly. Karl had to endure an agonizing 4 hours of mounting panic, restricted breathing, and intense compression as the rescue teams worked tirelessly around him. The instant Karl was freed, he was rushed to the ICU. Doctors found extensive crush injuries, severe bone, organ, and nerve damage from the prolonged compression. Despite heroic efforts, Karl died 8 days later, a fatal victim of the deceptively safest place he had ever explored.